What's up Internet, Kevin here, bringing you part 2 of my E3 press conference response videos, and this time we're talking about Ubisoft and Sony. So to begin with, Ubisoft's press conference felt a lot like the shortest out of the 4 we've seen so far. It was actually the same length as EA's, but there were fewer games covered with more time spent on each one. Now I have to say that while the conference did have its ups and downs for me, Ubisoft really knows how to kick off and end a press conference. It started with the first 5 minutes of Far Cry 4 gameplay, which looked really good. It introduced the setting and the new villain, which didn't feel as amazing to me as Voss was in Far Cry 3, but still really interesting. And then they ended the show with the surprise announcement of Rainbow Six Siege, which showed actual gameplay where a bunch of players just basically destroyed a house with some really amazing destructible environments. Everything in between those two, though, was a little bit of hit and miss for me. We ended up having a nice little dance segment thanks to Just Dance 2015 and the announcement of a mobile game, Just Dance Now, as well as a fitness competition thanks to a new game from them called Shape Up, which I have to admit, while I'm not a big fan of fitness games and I'm probably never going to pick this game up, it does look like Ubisoft finally found a good balance between having a game that wasn't just fitness, but also had fun minigame, video game style aspects to it. We also got some really beautiful trailers for Assassin's Creed Unity, The Division, and The Crew, which really didn't give us that much more info about the actual games, but does prove that Ubisoft really knows how to make a pretty trailer. Now, there was some additional time spent on Assassin's Creed Unity where we did see some actual gameplay, but it was really kind of weird because they started off by talking about all the new co-op features and how that was going to be a new central part of Unity, but then all the gameplay they showed was just single player. Now, to be fair, they did show co-op gameplay of Assassin's Creed during Microsoft's press conference, but it just felt really weird to talk about it now and then not show it. Now, after all those other games, there's only one more left to touch on, which was particularly really beautiful and touching, and I'm really excited for. It's actually coming out at the end of this month, Valiant Hearts, which basically tells the story of a World War I style era, all told through the eyes of a dog that travels with a number of unsung heroes, which is what I'm really looking forward to trying out later this month. So overall, kind of a hit and miss conference. There were some really good high points, a few awkward lows, but overall, pretty solid. Now, as for Sony, I have to say that that was one of the most bizarrely paced press conferences I've seen in a long time. There was a lot of good information and some great announcements in it, but it was peppered throughout a lot of really weird shticks, a few other announcements that were interesting but were really glanced over very quickly, and just the whole presentation felt really awkward to me. Now, as far as games go, we got a really good mix of multi-platform and exclusive titles, as well as some we already know about, and some brand new announcements as well. As far as multi-platform games go, we got brand new trailers for Destiny and Metal Gear Solid 5: The Phantom Pain. We also finally got to see some gameplay for Batman Arkham Knight, which looked amazing. We got the announcement that GTA 5 is coming to PS4 and by extension PC. We got to see actual gameplay for Mortal Kombat X, which I'm really excited for. And we had another gameplay segment for Far Cry 4 because Ubisoft just can't keep its hands off of everyone else's press conferences. Now, as far as more PS4 exclusive things go, we got a new trailer with just a touch of gameplay for The Order 1886. We got the official announcement of the new Souls-style From Software game called Bloodborne, which I was really happy to find out about. We also got to see a live demo of Little Big Planet 3, which features new characters with unique abilities, including a really overpowered looking bird that just flies through most of the stages. And on top of all that, we got one surprise new announcement of a really interesting looking indie title from a small studio called No Man's Sky, which is one of the most beautiful looking space sims I have ever seen. Now, alongside these, there were a lot more montages and a lot more games announced for PS4 that were really glanced over very quickly. Just to name a few of the top ones that really stood out to me, we're getting a full remake of Grim Fandango, Magicka 2 for PS4, a new really gory looking game from Suda51 called Let It Die, and an underwater style game that looks very reminiscent of Journey called Abzu. There was also a really big focus talking about games that we already knew about or are coming out soon that are multi-platform but are getting exclusive content just for Sony, including Destiny, Disney Infinity 2, a special dungeon for Diablo 3 based on The Last of Us, and an exclusive console beta for Battlefield Hardline. Outside of games, we got a bunch of different announcements for different pieces of media, software, and hardware. The biggest two, though, were the official announcement of the PlayStation Now beta for PS4 starting on July 31st, and the fact that PlayStation TV is now coming to the US. Honestly, there was just a lot of stuff that was covered at the Sony press conference. I've touched on most of it, but there was just so many things that were quickly glanced over that just made the whole conference feel like it took entirely too long and really awkward. But thankfully, they did find a way to end it on a very strong note, one that we did see coming, but nonetheless we're all very much excited for: a new trailer for Uncharted 4, which did give it its full title, A Thief's End. So overall, there were some really good game announcements to come out of the Sony press conference. I just really didn't like the way the conference itself was handled, but I was really happy to get the info I got, especially for games like Bloodborne, Mortal Kombat X, Batman Arkham Knight, Uncharted 4, and the biggest surprise for me, No Man's Sky. So that was just a quick recap and my thoughts on what we saw for the Sony and Ubisoft press conferences for E3. If you guys somehow missed my first video where I talked about Microsoft and EA, that is linked down below as well as at the end of this video. And I'm also going to be putting up a Nintendo response video soon as well. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss that video. And if you enjoyed this one, hit that thumbs up button as well. You can also follow me on my Twitter at Kevin Kenson, where you can hear my up-to-date thoughts on games I'm playing or at different announcements coming out of E3. I hope to bring you guys more content soon, but until then, I'm Kevin Kenson and I'll see you later.